Well, billions of dollars have been spent on political advertising, saturating those living in the so-called swing states. Thousands of voters have been canvassed, hundreds of rallies have been held, and, of course, those 3 television debates. US voters are finally going to the polls after one of the most expensive and finely balanced presidential elections in that country's recent political history. With national opinion polls showing President Barack Obama and the Republican challenger Mitt Romney in a virtual dead heat, both candidates have been mounting last-minute election day drives to get their supporters to cast their ballots. However, Mr Obama is seen as having a slight advantage in several key swing states, such as Ohio, and is seen as perhaps having the slightly clearer path to the 270 electoral college votes he needs to win the state-by-state contest. Shortly we'll be joined by Republican strategist Bonjean, a former top spokesman to the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader. But first we go to the Democratic camp in Washington. Bob Weiner, who directed the press briefing room at the National Democratic Convention. Bob, welcome.
Kathryn, I envy you. It's 9 a.m. Wednesday there, and so you already know the results.
If only. Now, that would be an interesting strategy. We've got to wait even longer, it feels like. Bob, we talked to you, actually, at the last election. And
I remember it fondly. It was one of the highlights of the last round. And I love the fact that you are that interested in what we're doing over here.
Well, the world is very interested with what happens to the United States leadership. And this it is incredibly close, Bob. I know you will possibly reiterate.
Actually not. Actually, it's not that close. Nate Silver of the New York Times, who is considered the guru and the expert, gives a 92% chance to Obama to win for the very reasons you described, Kathryn, that in Ohio, Virginia, Colorado, Nevada, New Hampshire, the swing states, Pennsylvania that Romney's making a last-minute play in, Wisconsin, we are ahead in virtually all but one of the polls, which we believe is an outlier. So if you do the science, you can only work with the science, Kathryn, and the science tells us that this race, and especially in view of the high turnout, the high early voting and the high turnout, is ours to lose. We believe, I don't think 92% is a right number. That's a crazy high number, but that is what Nate Silver, who is considered the expert, said. I'm giving it a 75% chance, assuming we keep doing our homework and driving our turnout all day.
So the argument is that even though it's margin of error stuff in some cases, Obama...
Yeah, but when you add it all up, when you put it all together, you can only do so many margins of errors one case at a time. But when you add it all up and you're 3 to 5 points up in everything, that's why they come up with the 92% chance. I think it's accurate, but I'll tell you what. I was sitting in National Democratic headquarters when John Kerry was the winner in the exit polls, and then it turned out he lost. And we all were around when in Bush v. Gore... when Gore actually won Florida, but then there were 20,000 votes in Palm Beach County that were cast for Buchanan because of the crisscross butterfly ballot that didn't count, and we lost, and the hanging chads and the broken voting machines and all that. So voter suppression is a tactic that the Republicans are trying to use. They're doing everything they can to try to block the vote. But it backfired this time. People are willing to stand in lines the 4, 5, and 6 hours, despite the fact that they have cut the number of hours, and now it's become a cause to actually vote. So I think the voter suppression this time has backfired on them.
So you're interpreting a high turnout and high early voting as what, benefiting the Democratic cause more than the Republican cause?
Always. The more people, the better, because the people who don't vote for us are actually about 5-2 Democratic. So the more people that come, the more people that turn out, the better the Democrats will be, and turnout is very high today.
What could go wrong?
In record numbers, actually.
Yeah, you're in positive mode. What could go wrong?
I like to. I'm one of the few who doesn't put his head in the sand, Kathryn. I had an op-ed in the Washington Times, the major Republican paper, the day after the first debate, saying it was a Democrats' debacle, that Obama didn't come back with forceful sound bites, and he needed to fight Ryan with fire, and I put that out, and I said that John Kerry, the guy who's renowned for the long, drawn-out, incomprehensible sentences, was the guy who briefed and mocked that he was the debate opponent for Obama. There were strategic errors all around, and I put that out publicly at some risk to myself. So I think you know me. I will say what I think needs to be said. My read on this is it is Obama's election, and I give it about 75%.
What could go wrong, and will it be Ohio? Because when you look at both men's respective paths through to a result, and we're hearing you saying, and many commentators saying it is a tougher path for Romney, Ohio is pivotal to opening up that door, isn't it?
Well, Ohio is important, and we've been going to Ohio, as well as to the other swing states. But it's not the only way to victory. We could lose Ohio and win Wisconsin, Virginia, New Hampshire, and Colorado, and it wouldn't matter. So Ohio is very important. That's why my predicted electoral count, everybody does their little pontifications, and mine was 300. I may be low, but 300 is over 270. We have some cushion.
The matter that you mentioned, actually, which is if it does end up close and with some disputed situations or some recounts needed, I think that is probably the worst fear, actually, of many of the observers who are looking in from overseas, given what's happened previously and also given the economic situation in the States presently. Is that a real risk, and is it something that both camps have geared up for, the possibility of challenges in some states?
We have 800 lawyers, and they're monitoring carefully, which is why in Florida, when they pulled the stunt of trying to close the early voting, we had our lawyers ready, and they found a ground right away that you could vote absentee in person, and the elections officials went around Governor Rick Scott and reopened their polling places and used that legal option without even clearing it with the governor because the law allows it. We are prepared and ready this time. We will not take the garbage from the Republicans, who their objective is to suppress the vote as much as they can, because that way they will have not the turnout that benefits the Democrats. The more people you have, the more it benefits us. And I'll tell you what, there's a reason why we're ahead, Kathryn. When Romney calls for real change, what's he mean? Tax cuts for the rich, drilling for oil, stop women's choice, oppose equal pay for women, self-deportation of immigrants, students borrow from your parents, and bankrupt people because they won't have health care that he'll repeal? That's change you can be afraid of. Plus, his lies in Ohio backfired on him, where he said that Jeep was going to send jobs to China, and all the car company presidents came back and said, that's not true. You've made that up. And the people of Ohio are resentful. So that plus Sandy, where Obama showed his leadership in the hurricane and worked with Republican keynoter at their convention, the Republicans' convention, Governor Chris Christie, and the two of them bonded over actually doing something for the country and protecting people's lives. That's why this is not going to be as close as people think.
That is an interesting point, because I'm sure the politicians are, and certainly we are, wary of taking people's personal disasters and putting it in a political context. But many would say that certainly gave a boost, or perhaps put a check on any momentum in Romney's campaign, that event.
It stopped dead his campaigning for 3 days, and he had been saying how Obama can't be bipartisan, and there they are, arm in arm. Christie's saying Obama had great leadership.
Okay.
To the point where Saturday Night Live, our great humor program in the United States, just totally spoofed Romney for saying there's no bipartisanship.
Stay with us. We want to welcome in, this is Bob Weiner we've been speaking to. He's with the Democrats. Republican strategist Ron Bonjean is a former top spokesman to the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader. Ron, appreciate your time. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Uh,
Thank you. Great to be here.
Let's address a couple of those matters, some of those controversies shortly. But first of all, we're hearing from Bob considerable confidence. He's putting it at 75% that Obama's going to carry this. How are the Republicans seeing it?
Well, I think the Republicans are seeing it the way the rest of the country is seeing it, which is that this is going to be a very, very close election. You can see it in the polling, and you can see it in the nationally and in the battleground states. I think that Romney has put his best case forward. I think you see it. The reason why the election is so tight is because Romney, in the first debate, put a vision for where he wanted to take the country. He presented a 5-point economic plan, and he was forward-looking. While the president's been struggling to explain what he's been doing over the last 4 years, Romney was able to talk about what he's going to do in the next 4 years.
It is
really helped him in the polling.
It is tight in that national vote, but the one that counts, of course, is the Electoral College. And what we're hearing is that slight lead is in too many of the swing states for Romney to be able to count on. He's got to pull off too much, I guess, is the basic case. The odds are against him too much in too many states.
Well, I'd have to disagree with that. I think if there were too much to do in too many states, I think that that Mitt Romney wouldn't be as in these polls so tight. If you're talking about a lead, you're talking about maybe 1 or 2 points lead in a state poll. That doesn't mean a whole lot when you're talking about voter turnout. I mean, you're talking about record voter turnouts, like my counterpart was saying, which can benefit either side. I think it can benefit Mitt Romney quite a bit. Either the enthusiasm is up, they're motivated voters, they want to see the change they want to see a change in direction of where the country is headed. And so, look, Romney's been able to expand the battlefield here. I mean, Ohio's been extremely important, but you see him in places like Pennsylvania, forcing the Democrats to put Bill Clinton into the state to defend it. He's been in the campaign is tied up in Minnesota, a place that we thought was unheard of for a potential win. So we've expanded the playing field. I think that Ohio is still a linchpin. I'm from my home state is Wisconsin. 6 months ago, that wasn't even on the radar screen, and now you see Romney has the potential to take that state for the first time since 1984 when Ronald Reagan took it.
Is the swing enough, though? And the path is seen when you're putting the building blocks together. Florida, where Mr. Romney's been in the lead, he's pretty much got to bag that, hasn't he? But he's got to bag that plus enough others. And would you concede that adding up those blocks is more difficult for him?
Oh, absolutely. Look, it is a harder path for Romney to get there than President Obama, no question about it. But he's pulling it off. He will likely take Florida. He will likely take North Carolina. He's doing quite well in Colorado. And look, the trend has been going in Mitt Romney's direction for the past month, and the only thing that slowed it down was Hurricane Sandy. I think you're seeing record turnouts because people want to see a change in the direction of the country for the next 4 years. And I would agree with you, while he has a tight path, that he's going to navigate it, and he will be our next president.
The matter that I raised, which if we do end up with incredibly close results in critical states, what happens to sort out any difficulties, any legal matters, any recounts? We went through, and your country went through a great trauma in 2000. Right. What preparation is there by the Republicans to ensure a clean decision-making process if there are ties or there are problems?
Well, both sides have legions of lawyers ready to go at a moment's notice. In fact, it's interesting. Both campaigns staffs, when they show up when they're at work right now watching the election returns, and if there is going to be a situation where you have recounts in different states, they have their overnight bags packed. They are ready to fly to any state in the country that needs help. So you're going to have lawyers, you're going to have campaign staff drop in. And while the election is today, it becomes a whole other campaign that can last for days or weeks, or as we saw during the 2000 election, it can last for up to a couple of months of intensity of a whole new campaign level here, which raises the stakes tremendously in who could be our next president.
Some of the controversy that have emerged, do you want to respond to what Bob Weiner was saying about what was happening in Florida with the early voting and criticism of the governor there? Your response?
Well, I don't know. I don't have the up-to-date information on what's happening in Florida and what's going on there. I will say that Republicans do believe across the board in having a strong and open democratic society and having people be allowed to vote. I would take issue with my counterpart. I saw that in a Philadelphia neighborhood, there was a polling station in front of a large Obama mural. So that's, advertising, which is against the law. And I believe a judge has now gotten in the way and has put an injunction to move that polling place to a different location. So I don't know what's going on in Florida, but I would say that, across the board, Republicans believe in having an open, free, and fair society.
When are we going to know? There were botch-ups again in 2000 with television stations under pressure, calling the election and calling it too soon. Can I ask each of you, at what point will you feel confident your man is or someone is over the line? Do you want to finish off with us first, please, Ron?
Sure. It's difficult to say exactly when we'll know. We'll start seeing exit polls at 5 and 6 o'clock this evening. Hopefully we'll have an early evening and spare everyone a late night. But I think, when you see returns coming in from a state like Virginia, which is key to a Romney presidency, Virginians are a very efficient, have a very efficient system, and their polls close at 7 p.m. Eastern time. Usually, pretty quickly where that state stands. So that would be a very good indicator early on about where this election is headed.
So that's 3-4 hours away.
Correct.
And your take on it, Bob? Again, there will be a nervousness about jumping too soon, but when will you be starting to find yourself unable to contain yourself if it's Obama ahead? What will be the pivotal time for you? Bob, are you still there?
And then I have to talk to Sky News Worldwide at 9:40.
Bob,
so I'm hoping that by then I will have the information. I think we will. I agree with my colleague that Virginia is a determinant, and then Ohio and New Hampshire. If those come in and if they go one way or the other, it's over.
Good talking to you. Enjoy the rest of your days. We all hope whatever it is, it's a clear result. And would you both concur that that's what everyone needs?
Well, I'm not sure what you mean. I would say this, though, to my colleague. When he talks about a 5-point economic plan, to this day, Romney has not said where he's getting the money for his tax breaks for the rich. And that's one of the real issues against him, is that he represents the rich. And that's one of the reasons why he's going to lose.
Last word, Ron?
Well, I would just say to Bob that we'll just see what the voters decide today, and that he can criticize President Romney tomorrow. Write another op-ed in the Washington Times about it.
Good talking to both of you. Thanks very much for your time. Ron Bonjean is the Republican strategist, former top spokesman to the Speaker of the House and the Senate Majority Leader. Bob Weiner is a Democrat strategist. He directed the press briefing room at the Democratic National Convention. It is 25 minutes past 9, so they're saying 3-4 hours. Someone will be bold enough, brave enough to begin to be shaping their views on how this is going, perhaps early afternoon New Zealand time.